I'm in the river of life. Yeah. I'm in the river of life. I swear in I'm in the river of life. Holy Lord, I'm in the river of life. Oh yeah, river of life, oh God, river of life, oh Jesus, and river of life. I swim in it, yeah, river of life, river of life, yeah, 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 river of life.
I'm Gemma Wenger, and you're watching Beauty for Ashes. And God just dropped my special guest in my lap this week. I happened to be praying, and then I thought, well, I'll just go on Facebook, and I started searching for people, and I just heard the name Jeff Borkowski, and I knew him like 23 years ago at a church I used to attend. So I put the name in, and I searched, and all of a sudden I saw that he had written a book, and it's an amazing name, and we're going to find out where he got this name, but it's called Wife Magnet. Become the husband she can't keep her hands off. This is so powerful because we know we have the Song of Solomon in the Bible that talks about that romantic love relationship between a man and a woman. And in this book, we see God's biblical principles in action, modeled in everyday life. And Jeff is an amazing writer. I read this whole book, and he has so much humor. He disregards English language conventions and grammar, and he just gets his point across in such an original way. And it was like, I wanted to keep on reading because I wanted to see what new and original and unique idea he would come up with next. So I'm just so excited that Jeff could be here today. He's actually from New Jersey, and he just happened this week to be in LA on vacation. So welcome, Jeff.
Thank you, Gemma.
So
what
much.
a sweet introduction.
Oh,
Wow.
you're so sweet. You're so sweet. Well, tell me about the book. How did it come into being?
Yeah, let's see. I didn't set out to write a book. My marriage, unfortunately, this is part of the story. My marriage ended about 4 years ago. My wife left, and I was devastated. And as Jesus does, right? He redeems us. He kind of meets us right there in our pain. And I was determined from that point forward. You know, I couldn't go back. I knew I couldn't go back and change the mistakes I had made in our marriage. But moving forward, I wanted to be a better man. You know, I wanted to learn and grow, and God, what's the most I can get out of this? So I took 18 months. I mean, the divorce was devastating. I cried every day for 7 months.
We read the last chapter that I felt for you. I'm so sorry. The epilogue was just so dramatic, but that's one thing that's so good about this book is that you're so vulnerable, you're so open, you're so honest, you don't hold anything back, you just tell it like it is.
Those are the words I hear a lot: raw,
yes,
transparent. But those are always my favorite books and teachings, right? When people are just real and aren't wearing their masks and saying that, you know, what they think they should say. So I didn't set out to write a book, I set out to heal and learn and grow and become a better man, like I mentioned. So I took 18 months off from work, and I was doing soul care classes, and I was journaling every day, and really just diving deep with the Holy Spirit, you know, and really wanting to learn, how did I contribute to the ending of my marriage versus she's this and she did that. That's her journey. That's her and God, but I wanted to grow. So anyway, about a year later, a friend of mine was reading some of my journal entries, and he said, Jeff, wow, you have a real way of kind of cutting right to the chase and getting to the point of the matter, and this heart stuff in here that you talk about, it's deep. Have you ever thought of turning this into a book? You know, you should. And so that's kind of how the idea for the book started. Just a friend, a close friend, saying, this is some powerful things. And I think a lot of men who are stuck in their marriage, like you were stuck in your marriage, because I was stuck, And I had my head down for a lot of years. I was a bit of a workaholic. Anyway, so it was a friend just saying, I think a lot of men and marriages could be well served by your story. So.
You used to have another title.
It did, yeah. The book started with a title that's good because it got the attention of my target audience, but it wasn't good because no one was willing to share it.
What was that title?
The title was called The Sex-Starved Husband's Guide. Oh, that'll get your attention, right?
Yes, definitely. And I think it's really interesting that you said that this is boot camp for men.
Right.
But honestly, I think women can get a very good understanding of what's going on in a man's psyche by reading this. So
I've heard that a lot.
I would highly recommend it for women. Now, I just want to say that when you open the book and you go to the first chapters, to the table of contents, you're going to think like it's X-rated, okay?
Right.
But I just want to let you know,
Sure.
we're going to PG, okay? Like Song of Solomon is more like PG. We're
Right.
going to go with PG. And so it's so funny. I just crack up. But again, Have Cone will travel. So this is the guy who's blinded, who doesn't get it, who doesn't see.
Right.
Women are liars, which
Yeah.
is an excellent chapter. So
Women
we're good.
love that chapter, believe it or not.
I like the better sex guarantee, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5.
Yeah, there's 5 of them.
And women in the fine art of door slamming. We have the A word. We also have this chapter will save you lots of time, and that's your take on porn.
Yep.
And then we have, boy, you're going to carry that weight a long time, and that's when your divorce was final.
Yeah.
I wrote down some quotes.
Okay.
So we're just going to talk about
Sure.
the quotes. Okay, the pain train, now boarding.
Yeah.
She pulled away emotionally, then sexually before leaving for good.
Yeah, that's a pattern I've seen in a lot of the men that I work with, and I saw it in my own marriage. I was too dumb and too shallow, unfortunately, at the time to do anything about it. But women don't just check out of a marriage one day, right? They pull away little by little, usually emotionally and then physically, right? Intimacy goes out of the marriage. So you referred to the first title of the book. What I've found in my own story and with a lot of the men that I coach, unfortunately, for guys like me who was a workaholic and for guys that have their heads down, the thing that finally gets our attention and says, we might need some help, is when sex goes out of the marriage. Unfortunately, that's the thing that,
Gets your attention.
gets men's attention.
And I think women aren't totally programmed that way as far as sex. And
Right.
so you really did a great job of integrating emotions with the sexual aspect of marriage. So you said, in all honesty, this isn't a book, it's boot camp. To save you from the searing pain of knowing the woman you love is in the arms of another man. The evidence is in. Prepare to see her light up again when you enter the room. Prepare to be greeted with a long, awkward for everyone else kiss. That's the best. Prepare to feel her hand reach for yours. Prepare to have her initiate sex. Prepare for a marriage beyond your wildest dreams. The most important point, I think, is on page 9. Okay. I chose to accept full responsibility for everything I had done or hadn't done that contributed to the mess our marriage was in. And then you quoted Hal Elrod, author of The Miracle Morning. The moment you take responsibility for everything in your life is the moment you can change anything in your life.
Yeah. Yeah, so this book is my journey, right? So again, often people will say to me, gosh, you were too hard on yourself, right? It takes 2 to make a marriage great. It usually takes 2 for a marriage to dissolve. But this book is about my journey because that's all I have control over. I can only take responsibility for my contribution to our marriage being lukewarm for so many years, there was a stretch, Gemma, before I crashed and burned and cried every day for 7 months, before my wife left. There was a stretch where I was just too aloof. I see this with a lot of guys because we all have faults. And I think the weak path, and I was a weak man for a lot of years, the weak path is to say, well, I would give more if she gave more. I would be more loving if she was more loving. And, that's the recipe for disaster. We're both waiting for the other person to make the first move. John Gottman, he's a renowned therapist the last 40 years, continually voted, one of the top 10 most influential therapists of the last century. After 40 years of research and academic papers and books, he basically says this: men are the ones who determine the state of a marriage, not women. So that's based on his studies for 40 years. And so the book is a little bit of my wake-up call and the need for other men to wake up and do their part and to lead with strength and to be the first one to move in their wife's direction rather than waiting for her. To be the first one to serve and to give and to make sacrifices.
You say, as long as I pointed to my wife and fixated on her shortcomings, I stayed stuck.
Right.
You brought your marriage to where it is today. You led it here. You've got to own that, no matter how unfair it sounds, because if that's true, so is this. You can bring it somewhere else.
Right.
Getting unstuck and bringing sexy back.
Yeah.
Bringing sexy back, okay? All right. Okay, so let's start with, my husband Radar tells me something's bothering you. I have a lot to do today, but it can all take a number and wait.
Right.
So we're going to go to Women Are Liars,
Okay.
page 14.
Okay.
You have an interesting way of putting it. So, women are liars. This is the conversation. This snapshot from my own marriage might sound eerily familiar. Me, this is you. Hey babe, you seem quiet. Is anything wrong? My lying wife. No. Me, are you sure? My lying wife. Yeah. Me, come on, what's bothering you? My lying wife. Nothing. Me, okay, I'm gonna head to the gym and get a workout. My lying wife. Fine. All lies. Explain.
Well, women are liars. No. Women want to be pursued. Women want to be in their marriage and want the security and the confidence of knowing that my husband is going to always come after me. He's going to fight for my heart. He's going to make me and our marriage a priority. So women are always looking for those little signals where men are either saying through their actions and their words, you're my priority, or you're kind of second fiddle and here's my leftovers and you should be happy. If you were to continue reading, what I say is, when my wife was like, no, I'm fine. You sure? Yeah, I'm fine. That I basically left the house and said, okay, I'm going to go get my workout. And that in my head, I said to myself, well, I tried. And that was the biggest lie of the day, because I hadn't tried at all. I had given a weak attempt to move in her direction. It was real, it was genuine, it was authentic, but it was halfway. And my wife was needing me to keep moving in her direction and to pull it out of her and not to be a mind reader and do what so many of us do, which is say, well, I'm not a mind reader, so when she's ready to talk, she's ready to talk, because I don't know what's bothering her. Women want men to put on our detective hats. And women, I found in my experience, they'll leave little crumbs hoping we'll follow the trail, right? Because any robot can say, here's what's wrong with me, please fix it. But women want us to pursue and to care and to dive a little deeper and like I said, to care for their heart.
You said spoken to a clueless husband who bowed out too soon. You didn't push. You didn't kind of be there for her and just refuse to leave until this was worked out.
Right. If anything, to be brutally honest, and men, you'll know this feeling, we're a little insincere. Because we're saying, are you okay? Is anything wrong? But I was really, I think in my heart of hearts, I didn't want to engage. I just really wanted to get to the gym and get my workout for me, I didn't really want to get into, a little selfish. So I pretended to care that, something was bothering her and that mattered to me, but not really. Yeah,
I thought page 19 was really interesting. And again, for me, they always say, men are visual, and then, they're looking for more of the sexual relationship. But this book kind of brought it together and, again, incorporated both together. In the same way you long to explore every curve and contour of her body, your wife longs for you to explore every nuance and complexity of her soul, her true self, her essence, the parts that won't wrinkle with age, her longings, her loves, her fears, her deeper hurts, what angers her, what makes her tick, what she dreams about, the goals she would set if she knew you wouldn't laugh.
Yeah, right? The deep parts of our heart. In life, it's easy to be on the surface, right? There's demands, there's things to do, there's errands to run, and they all need to get done. But at the end of the day, a woman wants to know that her husband cares deeply about her soul and the things that matter most. And he's going to stand by her side. He's going to encourage her in those things. He's going to fight for her heart. He's going to be her greatest cheerleader. He's not going to give a half-baked attempt, to help her when she's stuck, right? We all get stuck. And we all need people that are willing to come alongside us and kind of dive in there and roll up our sleeves and see it through.
So we also see that you received the Best Director nomination. And so this is page 67. You get home about 8 o'clock. Hi, me, honey, I'm home. Wife, you know what? I'm sick of you working late every night. You're never here when we sit down to eat. I don't know why I even bother to cook for you. Me, are you kidding? That is so not true. I don't work late every night. Last week, I left the office on time and got home for dinner on Tuesday and Friday. You don't remember that, do you? No, of course not. And why am I always the one who gets picked on for being late? What about you? And a few days ago, you were late for our meeting with blah, 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 blah. Nice shot, Jeff. How does your foot feel? Now keep in mind, my response was entirely factual. Technically speaking, I was more right than my wife was. Sure. The week prior, I really did leave the office on Tuesday and Friday. I really did sit down and enjoy dinner with my family, as I so clearly pointed out. And she really was late for a meeting with our financial advisor a few days prior. All of that was true. If you'd been in the room, I would have extended my arm in your direction for a fist bump. I was a shrewd defense attorney, but a harebrained husband. Winning the argument and being more factually correct were misguided goals. I only pushed my wife further and further away. Do you want to comment on that?
Sure. I mean, this is a typical scenario. It's in a chapter called Better Sex Guarantee number 2 or 3, and the subheading is Agree with Her. And it's based on something that Jesus shared. He said, when you're on your way to the judge, agree with your enemy. Otherwise, things could really get bad. And so what is Jesus saying there? What I think he's saying to husbands is this: when your wife has a complaint, agree with the part that's true, build a bridge, versus go toe-to-toe, well, that's not true. I don't come home late every night. Remember last Tuesday I was home for dinner? That's not the point. You just missed it. So Jesus is saying to us husbands, hey, forget about the actual words. She's hurting. And she's basically saying, I miss us. I want to feel closer to you. I want us to be more of a couple, more of a family unit. And so the point of the chapter is, even if she's flying off the handle, even if she's making a mountain out of a molehill, find that place of agreement. If it's 50%, 25%, 10%, and instead of firing back, you could respond to that same attack almost, right? You walk in the door, you're assaulted by your wife. No one likes that. But instead of pushing back and fighting, you could respond with something as simple as, you know what, honey, you're right. I'm not here for dinner enough. And that needs to change because you're my priority and this family is my priority. You know what? I'm going to talk to my boss this week and I want to see if I could start going in earlier and coming home earlier and us having more family time. See, that's the issue. It's not, well, that's not true. I was home for dinner last Tuesday. Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And then our next chapter, remember this is PG rated. Talk about oral sex for sissies.
So oral sex is referring to your words. And I tell men all the time that if you're married, if you're a husband, you're a poet, you're a writer. It's just part of our job description. And remember, guys, back in the 60s, if you're as old as me, the British invasion was launched with a simple phrase, I want to hold your hand. That's simple, right? And so it's just saying to guys, hey, find little ways throughout the week, whether it's a sticky note, whether it's a postcard, whether it's a text message, find little ways to say, you're on my mind, I'm thinking about you, I appreciate you, you mean the world to me. Hey, let's make plans, let's do something Friday, it's been a busy week at the office, I'm missing and I'm needing some us time, how about you? And most women, as you know, will jump at that offer or that invitation.
Definitely. Yeah. So what about better sex guarantee number 4, put her first. Sell the SUV to give her a spa day and hire a house cleaning service.
Is there applause breaking out now across the Southland? Yeah, you know, a lot of guys have expensive hobbies and expensive cars, and it's easy for us when we're out of the house for such a big chunk of time, and I know this is a little bit of a stereotype, so it's not every family and every home.
Well, you have to work.
Of course.
Or else you're not going to have any money.
Of course, but I mean, not every woman's home. You know, minding the house and the kids.
It's very hard being home all day long. If you're home with kids, it can be very depressing. It can be really hard. I mean, all you're waiting for is like your husband to get home or something to happen, but it really is overwhelming staying at home.
Right. Well, that chapter simply is about find little ways to pamper your wife. So if you drive a BMW X5 and the payments are $790 a month, downsize to a $400 a month car and use that extra $390 to treat your wife to a spa day once a month, a house cleaning service twice a month. The great thing about those little things is it pays off, it pays dividends for weeks and weeks and months because women, like men, often they get to look forward to, oh, next Monday the house cleaner will be here. I can leave that. She'll take care of that. He'll take care of that. My spa day is coming, you know. So just find little ways to pamper your wife and to say thank you for all that you do.
What really hit me is there was a sacrifice there, that instead of going to the Cowboys game and sitting on the 50-yard line, you watch it at home. That maybe there isn't a lot of money, but the money that you do have, you use for her instead of for yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, whether that's a set of golf clubs or, like you said, tickets to the Dallas Cowboys. Go ahead.
I did read it. You could see that.
Yeah, you did.
So when you give up something you love in order to cherish and esteem your wife by downsizing your car, selling those clubs, or watching the Cowboys at home instead of the 50-yard line, something mystical and profound happens. Your heart grows more fond of, more attached to her. You've become a better husband. You've become a better man.
Right. So the same way that if a guy spends X amount of money on a souped up sports car or maybe $1,000 on a new set of golf clubs, the same way that he becomes attached to that set of golf clubs, he's carrying his putter around the house, he's out in the backyard swinging his pitching wedge, you know, because he made an investment. Jesus said, where your treasure is, your heart will follow. And so the principle, the treasure principle, which comes from Christ, obviously, is, if you invest, even financially, in taking care of your wife and pampering her a little bit, just like that set of golf clubs or that souped-up sports car in the garage that you, in the middle of the night, go out there and turn on the light just to kind of look at it and sit in it and smell the leather, you become more attached to this woman that you promised to love and cherish. You become more fond of her. You think about her more throughout the day. How's she doing? I wonder what she needs. I'll check in. I'm going to stop at Trader Joe's on the way home. I'll text her, do you need anything? Just all those little ways that we as husbands can say, you're important to me, you matter, I'm thinking about you.
I have a question. I mean, would you say that you were self-centered in your marriage?
A little bit. A little immature, a little shallow, a little self-centered. I wasn't a jerk at home. I wasn't one person at church and then come home and I would rage and be a lunatic. I was just a little checked out in my marriage. Because I was a bit of a workaholic, my wife literally got the scraps from my table. She got my leftovers. And the way women are wired, there's one thing that they will not tolerate very long, and that's not being a priority. That's not being the priority.
It's true.
And it goes against everything about the way a woman is wired. A woman needs to be noticed and cherished and fought for and cared about. So yeah, I think the greatest slap in a woman's face is ignoring her on some level. And so that's unfortunately...
Like emotionally you were kind of ignoring her. Like
Yeah.
in your heart. Like you were there physically, but somehow your heart wasn't totally present with her.
Right. And I took care of our family, but you know, I think most men have two lists in life. There's the this can't wait list. Got to do this, take care of this. The boss is asking for this, got to take this business trip. And then there's the I'll do this later list. And unfortunately, my wife and our marriage, the things that would have nourished our marriage kept getting bumped to the, oh, I'll take care of this later. And as you know, later usually never comes.
And that's where the nagging comes, because
Right.
they expect it to be done like right then,
Right.
and then it doesn't get done, so they have to keep asking. You
Right.
you address nagging here.
Yeah. Yeah, for most women, it's a defense mechanism. It feels like an attack, but it's a result of a woman feeling unloved, not like a priority. Like everything else out there is important, except us and except me and our marriage and the things that matter around the house. You know, I tell guys all the time, preemptive strikes are the way to go. Because if my wife has to ask me, hey, have you called our tax guy yet? Have you fixed the sprinkler in the front yard yet? The lawn's getting brown. If she has to ask me that more than once, then there's an issue. Think of that, and me, there were so many times, Gemma, it's embarrassing to say, but I would say things like, oh, you're right, yeah, I'll call the tax guy today, I promise. And then a week later, you know, she'd ask me, what did the tax guy say? When's our appointment? Oh, I was just about to make that call. What happened? Oh, the boss called me into a meeting.
It doesn't make her feel like a priority.
Right.
And you have to make her feel like a priority.
Exactly. So what a difference, right? If that entire situation, or the lawn sprinkler, right? I'm at work every day. I don't realize that my wife goes out to walk our kids and she's actually getting embarrassed because our lawn looks terrible and it's brown, right? And that's having some kind of an impact. But it's more the neglect on my part. But imagine if in one of those scenarios I had approached her, right? Before she ever had to ask, hey, you know what? I've noticed our lawn's getting a little brown. I'm busy this weekend coaching the boys team, you know, their little league team. I'm going to hire someone, and I found a guy, you know, $50, he's going to fix our sprinkler. Or honey, I called our tax guy a month early this year. We have our appointment on Tuesday. How's 9 a.m.? You know, all of a sudden, wow, my husband cares. I'm a priority. We're a priority. Big difference.
And it really gives a lot of security, and women need security.
Absolutely.
Now, you address porn. This
Yeah.
chapter will save you lots of time. It's so funny. This is the first paragraph. Yes, use porn. It will make you a better man, give you what you want, and even resolve your intimacy issues. Can't even read my own writing. Plus, it's quick and easy. Next paragraph. All of that is true, of course, except for the part about making you a better man, giving you what you want, and resolving your intimacy issues. So then I went back to the first paragraph, and what actually is it? Yes, it's quick and easy.
It's quick and easy.
Talk about it.
Yeah, porn is such a ripoff, and it's so easy to turn to. You know, there's the lust issue and the different things that, purity issue and the things that God talks about, and those are all big deals. But I think the part that most men miss is this, is that porn, when it comes to porn, basically you have to put out nothing, right? So there's no sacrifice, there's no commitment, there's no making someone else a priority, there's no going the distance, there's no moving in my wife's direction even when I feel disrespected. Instead, there's none of those things, and here's the worst part, you still get the girl. So it trains men, porn trains us to be passive and weak. I don't have to work hard.
You get a gold star.
Yeah. So it really affects and messes with our brains and our brains wiring over time. It's really dangerous. My cell phone number's in the book.
Okay.
My cell phone number is in the book.
Available on Amazon.
So I have a Facebook page. And so if you go to facebook.com/Husband's Guide, you'll find, you can message me there. I'm also on Facebook as Jeff Borkowski.
Well, thank you so much,
Thank
Jeff.
you, Gemma.
It was just a pleasure having you.
You're welcome. Thank you for this opportunity.
God bless you, and all the best
I
with your
appreciate
book,
it.
your ministry, everything.
Thank you so much.
God bless you. I'm Gemma Wenger, and you're watching Beauty for Ashes.